welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on the wonderful, it's the beginning of February. How is it the beginning of February? And this happened last year in January. I'm like, where did January go? You wait till the end of the year. You got Christmas, you got New Year's, and all of a sudden, here we are in January of the new year, and it's like, okay, we got a new year, getting new things started. We just went through the holidays, and then it's February. So I hope you enjoyed your January, and I hope that time doesn't go by fast for us, folks, because one of my prayers that I pray all the time is, God, please help for today, tonight, and so on to be long, fun, and go by slowly. And for us to learn. In Jesus' most precious name. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. It's an important prayer because we don't want time to go by fast. We want to enjoy the time that we have. And I'm happy to be here with you on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /wakeupcalldt. And on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for being on Wake Up Call inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. But I pray the time goes by slow. I always do. Because it's meant to be enjoyed. And so hopefully you're enjoying it. I had a great time over the weekend. Had a wonderful time talking with family and friends. Taking Mom out to see Wicked for the second time. Had a great time with that. Fantastic movie, by the way. A lot of great stuff in it. So, I hope you had a relaxing and exciting time. And I hope you're ready for an awesome show. We're here this morning to talk about the future of collegiate athletics. There's been predictions that I've made on this show over the last few years, 3, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. Things that I thought to myself, well, these could happen. But I was hoping in some cases that they wouldn't. The future of collegiate athletics in front of us right now, folks, is creating this business model. It's creating a place where it doesn't feel like amateurism anymore. It doesn't feel like education's involved anymore. It feels like it's simply about the money. And anything that's about the money, well, it never ends well. There's a reason why you can't take money to heaven. The only currency that you could bring to heaven is your soul. It's how you treat people. It's what you've done with your life. You can't bring a bag full of money and buy your way into heaven. There's a reason for that. So, as we talk in the broadcast today, I want you to think about what collegiate athletics is supposed to be, what it was meant for, why we say student and not just athlete, but that we put student in front of athlete, that's supposed to mean something. There's supposed to be an education. There's supposed to be something that prepares you for the rest of your life. Some people are laughing when I'm saying that this morning. Oh yeah, Dan, it's all about the education. Well, it was. It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be about the education. Yeah, you wanted to see athletes do their thing and have fun and play well for your team, but it was also meant to set them up for the rest of their lives. It wasn't meant to, I would hope it wasn't meant to just make student athletes show ponies, but kind of feels that way. And the rules that have happened show a retaliation of the student athlete. Well, if my coach can leave and my coach can break every promise that they've made, well, then I want a way to do the same thing. Hence the transfer portal. Well, if the NCAA is a non-for-profit organization that's making millions, billions of dollars maybe, well, then I want NIL. Because if they're non-for-profit and they're not here to make money, well, I could say I'm not either and still make it. If regions don't matter and the distance between Syracuse and Cal is 2,400 miles and it would take over 30 hours to travel there on ground and in a car, And you have to go through multiple time zones to get there, and that's in the same conference. It's called the Atlantic Coast, but it's a team on the Pacific Coast. That the Big Ten has essentially become the Big Tent because they have West Coast teams now. That they have 18 in a conference that says 10. And the Big 12 has 16 in a conference that says 12. That the Pac-12 has 2. But it's changing. All these things that have gone on that haven't made any logical sense that I brought up on the show over the years are now coming to a head. My prediction that the NCAA would either cease to exist at all, or if they did exist, look vastly different than what we knew them to be. That prediction 6 years ago about in the next 5 to 10 years, this is what I think we'll see if things don't change. Well, that's come true. And it's come true to the nth degree beyond anything that I could even imagine. I was right about the prediction, but I had no idea how different would look. So today we have 2 conversations to be had. And the first one, inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, is with Gary Stokan, President and CEO of Peach Bowl, Inc., who comes to us overseeing many great things in the fantastic city of Atlanta, Georgia, including, but not limited to, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and the Aflac Kickoff Game. Our conversation today will venture into many of the pieces that I spoke about here in the introduction, and beyond that. In hour number 2, around 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, I will welcome longtime head football coach at the collegiate level back to the broadcast, Mike Houston, to speak on junior college. And Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback, the ruling with him on eligibility, being a JUCO quarterback coming into the NCAA. What does that mean? California set a precedent with name, image, and likeness, and the rest of the country had to fall in line. Felt forced. Well, Diego Pavia, his ruling, may force the rest of the country and the NCAA to fall in line. You can't set a precedent and then not provide an opportunity after that. Once the door is opened, it's still open. You can't open and shut it and go, we didn't do it. If Diego Pavia can have eligibility, despite the fact that he was supposed to not have eligibility with the junior college rule, well, now, what does that mean for junior college? Can you go to junior college for a year or 2, because it's 2-year institutions? Can you go for a year or 2 and never affect your eligibility? Go for a year or 2 and then spend 4 years in the NCAA level. If that had been alive, if that rule had been in place, I, myself, who wanted to play basketball, could have gone that route. So what does the Diego Pavia situation mean for the rest of the country? Mike Houston and I will break it down, along with NIL and the transfer portal as well. The future of collegiate athletics is in front of us. What's going to happen? Well, buckle up, baby. Because we need to have leadership, which apparently we haven't had. We need to have structure, which I know we don't have. And morals and values need to overcome the almighty dollar. And God help us if that doesn't happen. I pray for peace. I pray for common sense. And I pray for God and morals and values to be at the center of this. Yeah, I said God. Because the future of the people of this country depends on the decisions that are being made today and tomorrow and the next day. And shame is not what I want to rule the day. But people have been making decisions, maybe laughing with a glass of wine or scotch, while everybody else at the bottom of the mountain is trying to figure out where all the money's going. Well, now, as with everything, those that laugh at the top doing things the wrong way eventually fall to the bottom and meet everybody else along the way. And here we are. What will chaos turn into in the NCAA, if we even have an NCAA? We'll talk about it right after this on Wake Up Call inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, here where sports meets life inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Find Great Lakes Honda City on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They're open Monday through Saturday for sales and service, and to find their vast array of new and used vehicles, including the Ridgeline, the HRV, the Civic, the Accord, my favorite, the CRV, and more, you can go to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. With that being said, I am picture-in-picture with someone who I believe a decade ago took a chance on me. I've always had a vision and a mission for myself, and I've never believed that I'm some small fish, no matter how big the pond is. And Gary was one of the guys, one of the people that saw in me what I see in myself. And he gave me a chance. And I don't forget people like that. I don't forget people that, when I have these big dreams and aspirations and all these things that I want to do and I believe I can, and then there's somebody out there that kind of takes your hand and says, all right, brother, if you're going to do it, I'm going to give you a shot and you got my support. Well, he gave me a shot to speak with him a long time ago about Peach Bowl Inc. and the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And over the years, given me an opportunity to be at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, to be at the Aflac Kickoff Game, and him and his team, Matt Garvey, and everybody at Peach Bowl Inc., I can't thank them enough for the opportunity. So, Gary, before we get started here, Gary Stokan, President, CEO of Peach Bowl Inc., I have to say thank you. I want to say thank you because way back when, I forget what I eat for lunch, but I still remember being in Greensboro at that beautiful hotel where the ACC used to be stationed in Greensboro. Now they're in Charlotte. And I remember sitting in that room and asking if I could interview you, and you said sure, and you said pull up a chair. And I still remember being in that room, sitting in those chairs, you and I remember having a conversation and thinking to myself, I would love for somebody to believe in me, believe in what I'm trying to do here. I saw it in your eyes. I felt the genuineness of your intention, and I want to thank you because I can go right back to that moment and say that you've always been there. So that's how I want to introduce you to people. Thank you for doing that.
Well, you're more than welcome. You're more than deserving. I remember those chairs were quite comfortable, and that hotel at Grandover in Greensboro was a beautiful hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. So you and I have gotten to see a lot of things this season. We got to see an historic moment for the college football playoff. 12 teams for the first time ever. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which was in rotation of being a semifinal game, being a New Year's Six Bowl, going back to being a semifinal game, now will always be a part of this new format of the college football playoff, be it a quarterfinal game or a semifinal game. This year you were a quarterfinal game, and you fielded Texas, who came from the matchup between Texas and Clemson, which was played in Austin, Texas in the first round, and Arizona State, who had advanced as a conference champion from the Big 12. Now that you've had some time to reflect on what became an instant classic, just what your thoughts were about this round of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
Well, Dan, we're very blessed to be a part of the CFP playoff. We're in year 11 this year. This year coming up will be year 12, but year 11 was, quite an interesting year. We were at that Clemson-Texas game, and I remember, funny story, I remember being hit up by the people that run Bevo, the wife of the person that owns Bevo, the guys that run on the field with Bevo, as well as a lot of the students and the fans, asking me if Bevo was going to be able to attend the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And unfortunately, all the great things about Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where the sidelines are just right on top of the field and, just great sight lines, there's just not enough room for Bevo. And I took a lot of heat by not letting Bevo come on to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. But, to have a quarterfinal game and then to host the national championship in Atlanta, and then this upcoming football season to host the semifinal is quite an accomplishment for Atlanta, is the capital of college football, to host the three major events that CFP holds, all basically within a calendar year. So
Yeah.
This was the start of it. And then, this year with, we've seen, I think, the growth of college football with the advent of the new CFP playoff, because there were more teams vying for those 12 slots late into November and early December. So it helped TV viewership of college football. Secondly, I think you saw attendance go up in college football because there were more interesting games late in the season and all throughout the season. And people could stay with a team that maybe lost one game, like a Notre Dame, early, and still attend all their games and help their attendance by still getting in the playoffs. So I think, college football is it's such an interesting intersection of great support and great fandom, but yet teetering on really chaos. And so it's a really interesting time that calls for leadership, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of leadership is developed out of where college football stands right now.
It's interesting that you say that the college football playoff, expanding to 12, and you got to experience it, I got to experience it. To me, it was incredible to be in the first round. I was at Happy Valley, Penn State, and State College when SMU came to town. And then to be with you for the quarterfinal for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Texas and Arizona State. Then to be at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic down in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium, the home of the Cowboys. and to experience Texas and Ohio State, and then to be back at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and back there with you in Atlanta, Georgia for the national championship with Ohio State and Notre Dame. I can say from experiencing the 12 team, we are at a beautiful time of college football. But you also brought up the fact that we're in a chaotic time. Name, image, and likeness has had little to no parameters. There's, I believe, the most expensive contract in NIL went to a backup quarterback that barely played this season, Arch Manning, $6.6 million. And then to one of the guys that was in your college football playoff quarterfinal there at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Quinn Ewers making 4.4. So at the quarterback position alone, the Texas Longhorns shelling out $11 million for those two quarterbacks, one of them barely playing. So we know we're living in a world where there's kind of buku bucks going on and not a lot of parameters. We're also living in the transfer portal world, which affects the college football playoff in a couple different ways. And I don't know if I'm sure you've had these conversations, Gary, because I know you talk to a lot of different people. I spoke to some coaches within the CFP that told me in the weeks that they were in the week of the game, the week of preparation, they knew that other coaches from other institutions were calling their players and asking them to get into the portal and offering them money while they were practicing. So because the portal opens right after the regular season, there's opt-outs in bowl games. There's opt-outs in the CFP. There's guys that are transferring and going to different schools, so they're not playing in the bowl games. They're not playing in the CFP. And there's literal tampering going on of coaches calling players, texting players, saying, get in the portal right now. We'll give you X amount of dollars. And we had teams that were in the CFP this year who didn't have their backup quarterbacks or didn't have their quarterbacks in some of these bowl games because they jumped in the portal. So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, do we have to not open the portal until after the national championship is played so that bowl games and the CFP is preserved? Your thoughts on something like that?
Well, I contend and have said this for years that everything that's done in college football follows the NFL by 5 to 10 years. So a perfect example is this year, what did we do? We went to communication through via the helmet with iPads on the sidelines. The NFL's been doing that for 10 years. You watch. Within 3 years, I contend that the kickoffs will change in college football to mirror what they're doing in the NFL. The NFL is run by billionaires making billions, and they're in it full time running a business. We want to say we're college athletics, but we are a pseudo business. And I think the sooner people will realize that this is a business and it needs to be looked at and run as a business, then the better off everybody will be. And I think we're transitioning to that. With respect to the chaotic nature of college football, it's, unfortunately due to a lack of leadership, where leadership can't create a vision and cast a vision. And when you don't have a vision of where you're going, whether it's a business, whether you're driving a car, if you don't have, a vision, a map to where you're going to go, then you're going to have chaos. And, we need Congress's involvement, which, it's a tough time to ask DC for anything, right?
Yeah.
But I feel better in that with President Trump and who he'll have, from the Republican side running certain committees, that there will be an opportunity to maybe get some things figured out here through Congress, which will be a great start, number one. Number two, when you got to get the House settlement lawsuit, completed and finished, I think that'll give a little bit more clarity.
Yeah.
We got to get control and guidelines put in the athletic department rather than no guidelines at all, and different guidelines in each state, which will help, solidify recruiting a little bit. So I think there's answers to everything. It's just we need leadership to step up and put together the right calendar. When you look at the NFL has free agency, and then they have a draft.
Yeah.
So as an organization, you look and see, okay, these are the players that we've lost. These are the players we've brought in. What are our needs? Let's go get it in the draft. We have just the opposite in college football. We have two transfer portal windows, which intersect in the middle of trying to play for bowls and national championships. In the middle of all that, you've got signing date. So they all cross over one another instead of having a regulated, system of a calendar where, okay, let's have our transfer portal open. Now you know who you have, who you don't have. Then you can sign who you need, and kids in high school can say, okay, I've got a chance to play here. But we've got to be careful because I think we have the potential, if we don't get this figured out and done right, we have the potential to kill high school football.
Yeah.
And because a lot of kids are going to say, you know what? The scholarships aren't there because what people are doing is, like we used to say in college basketball the last 4 or 5 years, you want to get old to be good, right? Used to be that, you recruit a kid, you develop a kid, and by the time that those guys were juniors and seniors, you had really good teams. Well, now people just go in and dip in and get a transfer, 2 or 3 transfers in basketball, or 9 or 10 in football.
Yeah.
And if you're a coach making $9 to $10 million or $5 to $10 million, and you're getting some heat, and you didn't have a good record, what are you going to do? You're going to try and get good real fast, and you're going to win the transfer portal and do what you need to do because you got to win now to keep your job. So what's happening is you're seeing, upwards of 10 and maybe more in some cases, scholarships going to transfer kids, which deludes the number of high school kids that are getting scholarships. So kids in high school might say, you know what, I'm just going to go play lacrosse, or I'm going to play another sport instead of football. So there's a trickle-down effect to all this, and we've got to get it figured out and organized. And that's why I've called for the last 5 years a commissioner of college football. If you're going to run it like a business, run it like a business. Get somebody in there that has a staff and a board that's thinking about college football 24/7. Just like the NFL thinks about the NFL 24/7.
Well, and you led right into my next point was, should there be a commissioner of college football? If there be a commissioner, the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, answers to the owners. And so it's not simply him, it's 32 owners. Do we create a model in that sense and say, okay, there's a commissioner of college football, but does his owners, so to speak, become the college football playoff bowl games? Does it become all of the bowls? Because
no, my idea is you put a commissioner in and you have a board that's comprised of probably 20 people.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more. But you have 4 presidents from the Power 4. You have 4 ADs from the Power 4. You have 4 players from the Power 4. And you have 4 coaches from the Power 4. So, and you may have, a couple other people. That's why I say 20 to 25 board members. So you have representation of players, coaches, ADs, and presidents, right? You can fill in those other 4 with the 4 commissioners of the Power 4. So everybody that's vested in college football would be on the board. That commissioner and his staff would have that board to report into, and decisions would be made so that, whatever's in the best interest of college football, that's what we're going to wind up doing. But I think we've moved to that point now, and I think probably within the next 5 years, whenever the next TV contracts come up, you'll see another realignment, and you'll probably get to 64 schools, eight divisions with 8 schools in each division. And you'll have your playoff, whether it'll go up to 14 or 16 teams. But I think that's the direction we're going to go.
So in that direction, speaking with Gary Stokan, the president and CEO of Peach Bowl Inc., here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, in that world where we have regions and we have 64 schools, 8 split up in each, and then we have this kind of equal approach of having them by region, what happens to the conferences? Do we lose the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10? I mean, do we lose the names? Do we lose the power and the control that each of them have? If we are to regionalize football, which would make a lot of sense, then what happens to commissioners and what happens to conference alignment, essentially?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you basically have divisions, 8 divisions instead of 8 conferences. You have a schedule comprised of those divisions playing within their division, the other 7 schools, and then going to play another division.
Yeah.
And then you rotate, playing different divisions every year. You take away the conference brands right now, or you could keep the brands if you want, but instead of having 18 schools where people don't play each other, like the ACC this year, where Clemson didn't play SMU, Miami didn't play Clemson. You want to have some semblance of rivalries regionally, which really helps college sports, not only from an attendance standpoint, but viewership standpoint. Then secondly, you want to have competition that's equal across the board. Right now you have the ACC and the SEC playing 8 conference games, and the SEC and the the Big 12 and the Big 10 playing 9 conference games.
Yeah.
That doesn't make much sense. So you want to just get even across the board, scheduling wise, opportunity wise. And again, I think if you had a commissioner with a board, you could work through the schedule, signing dates, scholarships, the salary cap. I think you need to do all this from the business side, but the hang up that I'm having right now in saying all that is that we're starting to lose what the mission of college athletics is. And that is to give a kid an opportunity to get a scholarship. Once he gets his scholarship, get him a degree. And then once he gets his degree, then get him a job. And you just take football, 98% of those kids aren't playing, pro football, right? And so they got to pick up a lunch pail for the rest of their life. Even the guys that are going to play in the NFL, which stands for not for long, the average lifespan's 3.5 years. You don't get to free agency until your 4th year where you make generational money. So you take that 98%, let's take the 2% play pro, there's probably less than 1% that are getting past to become free agents. So what are we doing? Let's give these kids an opportunity to get a degree. Yeah, okay, NIL, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Right. There's so much money in the system that, kids should, share in that. But they should share by working for it. It shouldn't be a pay-for-play model. You should have to work to obtain that money. And but more importantly than all that, again, is getting a degree. And all these collectives, again, those should be there to give the kids that graduate from your respective institution jobs.
Yeah.
And because I think I think we got to be careful, and it probably won't be proven until 10, 15 years down the line, but a lot of these kids, number one, that are transferring 2 and 3 times, their credits aren't transferring, and they're not getting degrees, number one. Number two, they're transferring and not fighting through adversity to get better. The one thing that I can tell you is a guarantee in life, and there's a few of them, like death and taxes, but adversity. You're going to face adversity in life. It's going to slap you in the face. Life is not fair. And how you deal with that adversity and how you come out on the other side is going to be what kind of person you're going to develop into. And at that age, when kids face adversity, they need to fight through it instead of running and transferring. And I'm not saying all the kids do this, but
yeah,
we're letting these kids transfer and transfer and transfer. And in some cases, they're not getting degrees, and B, they're not learning how to develop, life skills of how to deal with adversity and move and fight through things. And thirdly, we're potentially setting them up for failure in that, okay, if we're going to give a kid, I'm going to make up a number, $500,000 to play left tackle, and in 4 years, he tries to make the NFL and doesn't make it, well, guess what? He's going to go to name the company XYZ, and he's going to have to go to work for $50,000 or $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so how's that kid, who maybe hasn't faced adversity, how's he going to deal with that, right? So I just worry a lot about, we've lost our way, and people get so ingrained in money. Everything's about money. And when everything's about money, people don't make right decisions long term. And that's why I worry a lot about college athletics right now.
Well, I said you and I cut from the same cloth. We believe in God. We believe in morals and values. And we believe that we're put on this planet not to make a ton of money, but to make a lot of positive change, a lot of positive affecting of the world. We're here to help serve others. And I don't see a lot of the service of others. I see a lot of the serving of yourself in name, image, and likeness. I see a lot of how can I eat? How can I take care of me? And the society that was already a me society, and social media has facilitated a lot of that, extends itself to being a me society when they can do what you said, run from adversity, run from competition, go and do things that serve them, only look out for themselves. If you're on 4 teams in 4 years, you're not a team player. And so when you go to a business and your boss says to you, I need all 12 of you to work together on this assembly line, because if one of you doesn't work right, the other 11 are going to suffer, and you've only learned how to fend for yourself and eat for yourself, well, you're not going to take care of your line because you don't really care about how it's going to affect the other 11 down the road. And when that bottle hits the ground and it smashes and it costs the company money, to you it's not your problem because you handled your little part, but you didn't think about the other 11. I agree with everything that you're saying, and I understand everything that you're saying. And I was concerned about these things years ago when California state law said, we're going to approve name, image, and likeness, and they left the NCAA and the rest of the country and the other 49 states in a position of, if you don't get with it, we're going to benefit. Because all the schools in the state of California, we're going to pay for the players. So USC and UCLA and Cal, we could do it at Stanford. We could do whatever we want. And unless y'all fall in line, we're going to enjoy this while all of you watch us take your players because you can't give them anything. Gary, I go back to this and I wonder why, and maybe this is being asked and I'm just not hearing it, but I haven't heard it. I've said it, but I haven't heard enough people talking about this, which has stuck with me since 2020. In the midst of a pandemic, think about how things work, because people are opportunists. And that doesn't always mean that they're looking at things in a moral and value-driven way, in a God-driven way. Some people are opportunists of taking advantage. At a time when we were at home, at a time when we were scared, at a time when we didn't understand and nobody seemed to have an answer, that's when NIL and the transfer portal unleashed themselves. At a time where people were focusing their energy over here, it was happening over here. And when that opened up, the NCAA said, whether you have a plan in place or you don't, we're doing this. And essentially, all 50 states were given the green light, even though I think at the time I checked, 9 states had some type of legislation. There was 41 other states that didn't have anything specifically done. Maybe some states wanted to do it. Maybe some states didn't want to do NIL. But the majority of the states did not have legislation in the process and ready to go at the time that the NCAA said, we're going to do this. And you say, you wanted to get Congress involved. I'm wondering why Congress hasn't investigated the NCAA to the breaking of state law, because if every state can make their own decisions when it came to NIL, how come the NCAA essentially forced 50 states to accept NIL during a pandemic at a time where I don't know when you could ever, especially as the NCAA, tell 50 states, you have your own laws, but we're going to trump those laws, act like the national government, and impose these laws on you. I'm just wondering about the legality and the constitutional rights that the NCAA had or didn't have when the majority of 50 states were not prepared for name, image, and likeness.
Yeah, unfortunately, the NCAA has never won a lawsuit. You talk about lack of leadership. The NCAA's had such a lack of leadership and vision. That's really been the impetus of creating all this chaos. We've asked presidents, and this is certainly not to denigrate presidents, but we've asked presidents of universities to make decisions on college athletics when the majority of the presidents don't have the knowledge that they need to have to make decisions on these matters. And again, that's not to denigrate presidents. They're running, $150 million, whatever it is, companies on their own campus besides athletics. And in leadership, you have to know the subject matter inside and out so you can make and cast a vision of where the business is going to go. And then you have to be willing to take the heat because you're not going to get every decision right. Well, we have presidents of universities that unfortunately don't know the subject matter, and we've unfortunately put them in decision-making processes, which has been unfair to them, unfair to the student athlete, unfair to the colleges and institutions, and so they haven't been able to cast a vision. And again, in leadership, when you can't cast a vision of where you're going to go, you're going to get lost, and you're going to create chaos, and that's why we have what we have. I think the NCAA needs an overhaul completely, whether it even needs to be an NCAA. I really believe college football needs to break away and form its own organization. There are things that college football does that are wonderful and great. There are things within the college institution that college football creates a lot of problems as well. Mm-hmm. There aren't enough. There's not a women's sport that equals the number of student athletes that you have in college football, but yet college football is counted in the Title IX numbers for an institution. If you got rid of college football out of the institution, you'd probably have a pretty good business model that you can run with equity with Title IX and men's sports, which is the law, obviously. But I just think we've reached a point with the amount of money that is in college athletics, particularly in college football. When I was in the ACC as a coach and a player way back in the 70s, it used to be that basketball led the amount of money that was brought in the conferences, and football followed that. And now it's turned around where it's 80-20. It's 80% college football and 20% college basketball that pays for all the other, the other sports. And so, the college football amount of money is just phenomenal. But I think going back to the presidents, I would have, that money coming into the institution is coming into the institution. And that institution president should say, look, that money's coming in just like all the other money that comes in to the institution. And we're going to put X into sports, and we're going to put Y into our med school, and Z into our dental school, and X, A into our business school. And, I think the presidents, if they'd have got on board in creating a way to use that money for the institution, they'd have been much better off. But, it stayed in the athletic department, and now it's escalated salaries, which are beyond, belief of what, some coaches are making.
Yeah.
And no one's, there's nothing against that. This is America. You should make what people are willing to pay you for the job that you're doing. And just like the athletes should get paid for the jobs that they're doing. But if we're going to be a college institution, the mission of the college institution is to get the kids educated and get them a degree. And that's where I think we're failing. And it probably won't come out. I've read where 20% of kids transferring more than twice aren't getting degrees now.
Yeah.
That number I would think is low. It will only go up with the amount of transfers that are going on. And I think that's a bad trend for college athletics.
Yeah. And there's so much to think about nowadays. Education, you and I talking about education on the screen, there could be people sitting here laughing, saying, who cares about that? It's not even important. But I would have loved to have gotten a free education. I was a good student. I had a 98 out of 100 in my high school, Christian Brothers Academy, that functioned like a college and trained us like a college and prepared us academically like a college. And to have the education that I had and the background that I had and the amount I was pushed, I got a presidential scholarship. I got money for books from working at the grocery store I was working at in high school. But I still had to pay. And I paid off my student loans a couple of years ago. But I look back at this and I'm like, man, if I got a $90,000 education for free, to me, that's good. I mean, and we think about, like you said, when money is kind of the root of everything, there's going to be chaos. It's kind of detracting. And I had this conversation recently of, if tuition keeps going, okay, so if NIL is here and it's here to stay, which it is, then if you're going to make money for players and you're going to want to have this money come in and you're going to want to have this endless pool, and it keeps costing you more to put your roster together and then keep that roster because you brought this kid in from high school for $5 million, but to keep him is going to cost you 6.7. When you're going through all of that, so then you say, okay, well, we as the school, we don't want to bite the bullet here. What do businesses do? Now, my business, I don't run like this, but there's other businesses out there that do this. Okay, it's going to cost us more to do this, so we're going to punish somebody somewhere else. So if you're giving student athletes free education, but now you got to handle NIL and the port, you got to deal with all this stuff going on and realignment and paying to get out of this conference and get into that conference. Well, now I'm going to increase tuition for Gary Stokan and Dan Tortora. And they're not my student athletes. They're going to come in here. They're really good students. They're done a terrific job. They got almost a 4.0. But now tuition is going to go from $80,000 to $90,000. Well, the model that we have right now, if it's going to cost more to do business in places like Tennessee that are going to be in the Aflac Kickoff Game, are increasing their ticket sales to pay what's quote-unquote a talent fee to their student athletes. Are we living in a world where if the cost of living goes up to put teams together, especially in college football, so then education goes up, is it going to hinder people from even going to college because we can't afford to go?
Well, it's an interesting conversation. I was blessed to get a scholarship and not have to pay for college and get out of college debt free, and through the relationships I was able to make, get my first job coaching in North Carolina State, and then from that relationships I made go to Adidas and then Converse, and all because I played basketball at North Carolina State. And so I was very blessed in that way. So I've been on the good side of it. I was like you. I've had daughters that have had to pay for their education, and just recently finished their paying of their college degree. I think it's something that it really is difficult to project ahead what's going to happen to institutions that are losing state funding, but yet the tuition and charges at universities go up.
Yeah.
But yet, in parallel, the online opportunities exist, and so and now you add AI in to all of this and technology, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to colleges over the next 10 years. And that's a whole different matter that I'm not educated enough to discuss and look at. The college athletic world just is crazy enough for me, but I hope that, and I think that the kids not being employees will help. I think the administration now in Washington D.C. and in the White House will not have the student athletes become employees. I don't think the student athletes want to become employees. Mm-hmm. I do think that we need more thought on what the future is going to look like after this iteration. I think you'll probably see some changes in the CFP playoff. Starting in 26. We've got one more year left in our contracts, and then there'll be a new contract. I think you'll see that'll be an interesting milestone. I think the milestone of what Congress does will have an impact on college athletics. I think the TV deals, once 2030, 31 comes, where you got new TV deals, I think that will have another seismic change in college athletics. And so these next 5 years are going to be really, really interesting as to, what college athletics is going to look like. I don't think it will look like anything that we've seen before. I think it will take on a professional model. You can already see it.
Yeah.
And what that'll have impact-wise to institutions and kids getting degrees and getting jobs, I don't have any idea, but I just hope they get it right, because being the benefactor as a college athlete, student athlete, and a scholarship, it was monumental in any success I've had in my life. And so I've seen it, and I wasn't a star. The guys that are superstars, God bless them. My belief in life is God's gift to you is life. Your gift to God is maximizing the talents, the God-given talents that He's blessed you with. And so anybody that, whether it's a musician or a football player or whatever they do, if they can maximize God's gifts and talents that He's blessed them with, that to me is what life is all about. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we've definitely, as we always do, Gary, open up, and maybe this time more than ever, we open up so many doors. I'm like, okay, you and I have to have 15 meetings about that, 20 meetings about this. I do want to get into the fact that not only was the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, where it always is every season and will always be a part of the college football playoff as we step forward. Quarterfinal this year, a semifinal next year, which I'm already excited about and can't wait to see who comes through it. The national championship sent me to Atlanta, Georgia twice this year. I got to go there, obviously, for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and then a couple weeks later, here I am back in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was in a different part of Atlanta, so I can say to you that some of the best nachos on the planet, Tin Lizzy's, big old fan of Tin Lizzy's. So got to shout them out, and we were absolutely treated well, from the partner hotels to the main hotel for media hospitality, the Westin there at Peachtree. Absolutely incredible. So I want to give credit to the Peach Bowl, as I always do, and at the same time, to have the national championship in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, got to go into, the convention center there that's right next to, adjacent to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That entire experience, Gary, and I told people this going into that, I said, going to the College Football Playoff National Championship and getting to cover it is essentially like me covering the Super Bowl collegiately. And then I went and I saw the carpet and the lights and the music and the larger-than-life stuff and the way that things are set up and the fan, how they can get involved, and how, we're in the media and we get to see this and experience this and have so much fun. And I'm seeing people from conferences, and I'm seeing people that, are representing bowl games, and everyone's kind of helping each other on the path to get to where we are. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it's so unique in of itself. And the experience of being on the field and just being back there. I was spoiled to be there a couple times this season. To have the national championship in Atlanta this year, and to not only see the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which you're such a huge part of, but to see the national championship there, what did that mean to you and to everybody at Peach Bowl Inc.?
Well, we had a strategy when I took the job in '98. As president of Atlanta Sports Council and president of Peach Bowl Inc., we wanted to make Atlanta the sports capital of the world because we were just coming out of the '96 Olympic Games, the 100th anniversary Centennial Olympic Games. And Bob Costas termed a phrase, Atlanta's becoming the sports capital of the world, because we were going to host the Super Bowl in 2000. And so we went after the NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball All-Star games. We got those in 2000, 2001, and 2004. We went after the ACC basketball tournament. We went after the NCAA men's and the NCAA women's basketball tournaments. And so we started to accumulate a lot of the big major events, primarily because the Georgia Dome was somewhat new, but Atlanta, we had the corporate support, we had the volunteer support, we had great facilities, hotels that were close proximity to all the facilities. We had a walking experience. And when you put the three interstates that intersect in the middle of downtown for easy travel by car, and then you have the world's most effective and efficient airport with hourly flights to a lot of the major markets, you had all the ingredients of the recipe to become the sports capital of the world. And so, we went after that. And as I transitioned in 2011 out of the Sports Council, because we had brought the College Football Hall of Fame to Atlanta, and so I was CEO of Atlanta Hall Management to put together the exhibit design, the site, raise the money for that. We started to say, well, college football, is pretty important to the city of Atlanta as well. We had already the SEC championship. We already had the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. The Celebration Bowl was created following what we did for the Kickoff Game, which was created. So we really had a focus on, making Atlanta the capital of college football. And, I think it's come to fruition with a lot of media that have looked at what our Kickoff Games have done is changed the face of college football on the front side of the season with major events, where prior to us starting the Kickoff Game in '08 with Clemson and Alabama, there were a lot of non-directional school games and kind of exhibition games, that non-conference games that were easy wins, where people didn't attend them very well. They did no viewership on TV, and as soon as we started the kickoff game, viewership went up from the first game of the season, and attendance went up. And now you see this year, Notre Dame will open up with Miami. LSU will open up with Clemson. Texas will open up with Ohio State. We have Syracuse playing against Tennessee and Virginia Tech against South Carolina.
Yeah.
So there's all these great games to start the season now. And then to back end it with a Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl that we were able to get into the CFP in 2014 and 15, where, again, I remember in 1998, my first year, I was in charge of selecting teams, took Georgia and Virginia, and our own newspaper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the headline read, "Georgia going to Peach Bowl, a third-tier bowl game." And so our own city and our own newspaper looked at it as a third-tier bowl game, and to start the kickoff game, to go and get the College Football Hall of Fame and move it to Atlanta and raise the money. And I think the commissioner saw that, and the president saw that we were giving back to college football. And so they gave us the opportunity to join the CFP. And, all that together led to hosting national championships and, quarterfinals, semifinals now. And so, 4 of the top 6 conventions in the city of Atlanta this year, which is the 4th largest convention town in the United States behind Las Vegas, Chicago, and Orlando, will be college football games. The national championship game, the SEC tournament championship, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and the Aflac Kickoff Game. So that's how important college football is to the city of Atlanta. And, our job is to continue that. But also, as our mission, we talked about mission earlier, the NCAA, but, our mission, as we were founded in 1968 as the 9th oldest bowl game, was to give back. We were the first bowl game founded for charity purposes. And so we've kept that as part of our mission. And, since 2002, we've given $65 million back to charity and scholarship, making us the most charitable bowl organization in the country. And that's something that, is near and dear to our heart, and something that will continue, on into the future.
Yeah, and we've already seen a kickoff for a cause, the Aflac Kickoff Game. Funds raised to help tackle childhood cancer. Over $400,000 has been raised already in that respect. And it brings me to the Aflac Kickoff Game, which is not just a game, but there for a cause and there for something that you and I spoke about when we were at the ACC kickoff this going into this season, which was helping to do everything in our power to find the technology and the support and the help and the right things that we need to hopefully not only aid those that have childhood cancer, but to get rid of it. So Gary Stokan here with us. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, we've now funded over $23 million to the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, and we have 14 trials with in 5 different hospitals in 4 different states now. Everything from neuroblastoma to leukemia trials that are, a couple are moving along to phase 2, and our goal is to get them across the goal line and into the end zone to get them FDA approved, where we can give a kid another day, another month, another year, or maybe another life time. So, that's our focus, and the Aflac Kickoff Game, and our partnership with Aflac really calls that to attention. And, we raised $400,000 this year just in one game.
Yeah.
But we're going to continue throughout the season with our Peach Bowl touchdowns for children, where you can give $1 to $1,000 for each team your team scores a touchdown, and Peach Bowl will match it. Last year we raised $750,000 through that program. We have our raffle that this year, just in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl alone, we raised over $150,000. 75 of that, half of that goes to the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center. So, we're going to continue to raise this money to, and this year we'll have two games. We'll have the Tennessee-Syracuse game on Saturday
Yep.
at noon, and then we'll have the 3 o'clock game the next day on Sunday with Virginia Tech and South Carolina.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I wanted to kind of finish this thing up. I talked to you about this, and I think it's all too poetic and all too amazing is that I said to you, because of the national championship game being played in Atlanta, that you will see the ending of the 2024-25 season in Atlanta, Georgia, and with the Aflac Kickoff Game doubleheader, you will see the beginning of the 2025-26 season. Well, not only is that pretty cool, and yet another story about how God just has very poetic ways of doing things, but I didn't know when I said that to you that I was going to be at the College Football Playoff National Championship game, and I have all the hope in the world of being there for the kickoff game. And I don't want to be there for one. I'd like to be there for two, because if you're there on Saturday, why not stay on Sunday? There's good enough places to eat, and Atlanta's a nice place. And I got some things I want to do down there, and some friends like yourself I want to see for more than a minute. So the thought of ending one season, literally bookending the end of one season and the culmination of it to the beginning of another great season, you get to do that in Atlanta, Georgia. And by the grace of God and my hopes, I ended the season with a national championship, and I hope to begin the season with Syracuse, Tennessee. So just what you could say about that, the fact that it all ended in Atlanta, and for all intents and purposes, we get to see a new season, a new journey for over 130 FBS teams, and that gets to begin in Atlanta as well.
Well, and on the backside, with our semifinal on January 9th, Friday night in prime time, we'll just about close out the next season.
Yeah, true.
Miami will host the national championship this year, January 19th, I think it is. But yeah, it's so cool to be involved in all these big games, to have the impact that we have on college football, to host all the people that we've sold out 25 of 28 games in the Peach Bowl, and we've sold out 17 of the 21 games in the kickoff game. So we're able to attract a lot of people to town, which we really enjoy. In Atlanta, volunteers and people in the Atlanta tourism industry, really enjoy hosting people, providing Southern hospitality, and to do it around a college football game where, we're giving college scholarships to the universities, and our John Lewis Legacy of Courage scholarships to kids in Title I schools from Atlanta and Georgia that, generationally no one in their family's ever gone to college.
Yeah.
So to have that kind of impact, as well as the impact we're having on children's health with our, Peach Bowl Touchdown for Children's, or our Peach Bowl Legacy Fund with the cancer trials. It's just, I was taught by my dad to, if you're going to do something right, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time, or don't do it at all. And I was taught by my mom, Acts 20:35, it's much better to give than receive. So I hold both of those near and dear to my heart, and try and implement them in everything that I do. So, we've been very blessed, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and in this kind of format, because it allows you to talk a little bit and give a little bit of stories behind things. So I appreciate you having us, and we'll look forward to hosting you to start that season with the Orange Bowl to start the season with Syracuse and Tennessee, and to end the season in the Orange Bowl with the national championship game.
Yeah, and to keep in mind that the Dodd Trophy, and a huge trophy in honor of coaches every single year, that presented by PNC, and obviously connected to Peach Bowl Inc., that the Dodd Trophy, which focuses on the three pillars of success, the scholarship, leadership, and integrity pieces, and that was honored to Marcus Freeman this season of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who exemplified that, and I got to be around him, and I got to get a feel for Marcus Freeman a little bit there in a Q&A opportunity, which I greatly appreciate on more than one occasion. Very deserving of the Dodd Trophy presented by PNC and in conjunction with Peach Bowl Inc. And of course, to see that coach go on and be a part of the national championship as well, coming through, winning that Dodd Trophy in his path to leading his team to the national championship. So, what do they say? All good things work together for the Lord. So a lot of great stuff here, as always, from Peach Bowl Inc., Gary Stokan and his team. Gary, as always, I can't thank you enough, beyond everything, for how you treat God in this world and what you focus on, the fact that you care about people, and that you just are one of those people that doesn't say it, you go out and you do it. So I appreciate the work that you do. I love seeing people like you be successful, and very much appreciate the fact that Peach Bowl Inc., as big as you are, as much money as you raise and things that you do, it feels like a mom and pop shop when you talk to the people that are a part of it. So thank you to your work, and thank you to always giving me the time and the opportunity to speak with you about things that are important to me and important to people that are watching and listening. So I can't thank you enough for that.
Well, Dan, great to be with you. And again, we look forward to seeing you at the spring meetings, the media days, and then in our Aflac kickoff game with Syracuse in Tennessee. And I know you're up there in Syracuse territory, so we look forward to hosting John Wadak and Coach Brown, who's down from around this area with Kirby Smart and the Georgia program. And we look forward to hosting him back down here in Atlanta and all those Syracuse Orangemen. So thanks so much for having us, and have a blessed day and a blessed year.
Same to you. God bless to you and yours, and look forward to seeing you soon. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. And a welcome back here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. In my honor and my privilege here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora to continue the conversation of the future
of collegiate athletics, and that continuation of the conversation brings in longtime collegiate head football coach Mike Houston to the broadcast. Mike joining me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life, and always appreciate having Mike on the show. So we got him picture in picture here with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios to speak on Diego Pavia's situation, the lawsuit, the future of NCAA eligibility concerning JUCO amidst so many things going on with the NCAA. They must have a lot of lawyers. We know they got a lot of money because they've been in court for a while. Mike, how we doing?
Doing pretty good. Hope you are. Staying warm?
Yeah, definitely staying warm, Mike. I could say something about the two of us. I'm happy that neither one of us is NCAA right now. is within this world. I'm going to give some background here, and Mike and I are going to discuss this because, like I said, Mike Houston, a longtime collegiate head football coach, and so this decision for Diego Pavia could very much affect your future in how you coach and different things that you do, whatever may be coming down the pipeline for you. So Diego Pavia, New Mexico Military Institute is where he was at junior college in the NJCAA, which I know very well. My hometown of Syracuse, New York, has OCC, which competes in the National Junior Collegiate Athletic Athletic Association, NJCAA. Now, that's what junior colleges are governed by. It's not by the NCAA. It's by the NJCAA, New Mexico Military Institute, part of the NJCAA for JUCO. Pavia spent 2 years there. Then he transferred to New Mexico State for 2 years. And then you tack on Vanderbilt, and here we are. He sued the NCAA back on November 8th of 2024, arguing that the 5-year eligibility clock and rules governing redshirts unfairly restrain the market for former JUCO players. I want to get your thoughts, Mike, on this. I'm going to stop here for a second. Suing the NCAA, and recently here, within a couple months' time, arguing that the 5-year eligibility clock, which for people that don't know that, you have 5 years to have 4 years of eligibility, which obviously includes the red shirt, and the rules governing red shirts. So that 5-year eligibility clock and the rule governing red shirts unfairly restrains the market for former JUCO players. I'd love to get your thoughts on the wording of that and your take on it.
Well, I think, this is just another example of, what we've seen in the last 5 years where, all these lawsuits that the NCAA is having to battle. That's what brought about the transfer restrictions being lifted. It's what brought about the NIL being allowed. And so now this is another case that they've got to battle. And I think there's so much to unpack with this. The thing that people didn't realize when they took away the transfer restrictions and created the transfer portal and the ability to move from school to school multiple times, year to year, semester to semester, and also when they allowed the student athletes to benefit from their name and image likeness, the things that happened because of those two rulings were the unintended consequences. You knew what the basic, what was going to happen, but then all of a sudden you have all the other things that happen as a result. And now you have collectives and you have, free agency semester to semester. And it's not good for the sport. And I think this is another thing, what's right. You got to figure out what that is, but also you got to figure out, how you're going to, what other ramifications is this going to have? And I know everybody at Vanderbilt's excited. Diego, just watching him this past year, he's a dynamic player, and he immediately makes them better next year being there. And so, and you don't fault him either. He just wants to play ball. Yeah. And so, there's lots of things on both sides, but I think that, with this, you have to be careful, because if they approve this, and then all of a sudden you have 2 more years of eligibility for all these kids, what's going to be the unintended consequences for high school recruiting, junior college recruiting, the game in general, because it's going to have ripple effects down the line. So I would be very, very cautious, just, barreling forward and just saying, well, yeah, they all get 2 more years of eligibility.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this, and we'll get to more pieces of this and where it's at right now, but I do want to let people know kind of the gist of this. And so this is the verbiage of what I've taken here from the lawsuit. Despite what the NCAA may claim, the JUCO eligibility limitation bylaws restrain college athletes from improving their economic opportunity, personal growth, and well-being with NIL opportunities. I find it interesting here that we talk about opportunity and growth and well-being, but it's all roped into money. It's money, then
Right.
it restates money through a full 4-year college playing experience, a freedom afforded to all athletes who enroll at NCAA Division I members as freshmen, but not to junior college football player transfers. This restriction violates the Sherman Act because it has direct anti-competitive effects that harm college football players and consumers of college football. In essence, the JUCO eligibility limitation bylaws amount to no more than an agreement to limit the amount of time athletes may play Division I football because they have chosen to attend a non-NCAA institution prior to transferring to a Division I NCAA college. These same restrictions are not placed on athletes who choose to delay entry to a Division I NCAA college to attend prep school, serve in the military, or even to compete professionally in another sport. So, really, when we stick with this, because let's be real, and I'll dig more deep into it in just a little bit here on some things that were claimed, but we're going after JUCO eligibility limitation bylaws in Diego Pavia's lawsuit against the NCAA, which, quote, states that he was restrained and college athletes are restrained from improving their economic opportunity, personal growth, and well-being with NIL opportunities. This never states education. This never states what personal growth truly means. It says economic, then it says personal growth, then it goes back to economic in connection with well-being. So the way that I read this, Mike, and this is no offense to Diego Pavia, but I'm hearing he wants to make money, they're supposed to make money, they can make money, why can't he make money? Let him make more money. That's what I'm reading in this is money, 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 which the NCAA has long had those giant safes full of it. And it seems like with all of these lawsuits and different things going on, those safes are opening up. But I'm just kind of at a loss here of this lawsuit essentially is granting more time, but I'm hearing give us more time because there's more money in that time.
Right. I mean, if I'm sitting in his shoes, I'm trying to get the same thing. And it is what college athletics has turned into, and that's the reality, and that's why much like we've talked before, I think the quicker that you can get some parameters around more of a business model with college football, especially, the better. I think right now you have the NCAA, which is supposed to be the governing body for college athletics. And, they're supposed to be the ones that give us the rules and the guidelines and enforce those rules and guidelines. Yet, they're being told what they can and can't do by the courts. And so I think you've got to get Congress involved, and you've got to get some parameters where, there's rules and there's enforcement across the board. And that way, you don't have the NCAA saying, well, this is what you can do. And then, a court or a judge somewhere saying, well, no, you can't do that. they've got to be allowed to do this. And I think it's too much vague, just unsettling stuff across the board everywhere where you don't know what the rules are.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this was something, and you and I spoke about this, but this was something that you and I had talked about. I had stated 6 years ago, well, almost 7 years ago. My prediction on this show, on Wake Up Call, was if the NCAA doesn't change from the things that they're doing, the rules that they have and that they don't have, the way they treat some schools and don't treat others, this vagueness that they have, this favoritism that they have, if the NCAA continues to function the way that they were functioning, I said this almost 7 years ago, then I predicted at that time, 5 to 10 years from that moment, the NCAA would cease to exist at all, and if it did exist, it would look vastly different. That prediction has come true. Everything about that prediction has come true. Because the NCAA is on the precipice of non-existence, and they don't look the same. NIL is here. The transfer portal is here. Realignment makes absolutely no geographical sense. So, as we stand here right now with everything being run by the money, I do want to let people know the NJCAA does allow for NIL. Now, getting more into the case, arguing that by allowing players 3 years remaining eligibility at best after 2 years at junior college, the NCAA is illegally restricting players' earning potential. That's what the lawsuit talks about. Once again, money. Athletes' eligibility clock starts when they enter a 2-year school, even if they don't play. The lawsuit by Diego Pavia allegedly specifically mentions Bo Nix and Dillon Gabriel, who are not just on a team, but were starters for 5 years due to the COVID-19 extension. Pavia did not get the COVID-19 extension when he was at the New Mexico Military Institute. So that's something else to note here. Dillon Gabriel, because I knew Dillon Gabriel when he was at UCF, then he went on to Oklahoma, then Oregon. Pavia's lawsuit requests an injunction preventing the NCAA from enforcing the rules that the lawsuit claims violate antitrust laws and asks for Pavia to be granted 1 or 2 more years of eligibility at Vanderbilt. Now, he was at New Mexico Military Institute, Mike, for 2 years. Then he was at New Mexico State for 2 years. He was granted another year because, I guess, not having the redshirt year. So he's already had a 5th year of college at Vanderbilt, which he served this past year in 2024-25. He's asking for a 6th year, and this lawsuit even presents the request for a 7th year of eligibility. Pavia is 24 years old. So he could be entering the NFL draft at 26 or 27 years old. Bring me into your thoughts on this, because we have talked about the decaying of the availability for high school and prep school student athletes to get into college football. If this, and the injunction's already been requested and granted, but if Pavia wins this outright and the NCAA sees this precedence and is forced to change these rules, we have now given student athletes a route where I can be 17 years old as a senior in high school, I can go to prep school, be 18 years old, I could go to junior college, be 19, 20 years old, and at the time I'm supposed to graduate, I could enter the NCAA as a college football student athlete at 21 years old and play 4 years as if I never went to prep school and never went to junior college. Bring me into your thoughts on this. I guess it gives the fringe high school student athlete who's not good with their grades an opportunity to go to JUCO and not be punished. There are good that comes from this.
Right.
But where are we heading in this world where now, if I'm a student athlete, and I wish we had this back then when I was playing basketball, Mike, but if I'm a student athlete, I got high school, prep school, junior college. I could have gone to OCC for 2 years, played, honed my skills. I can shoot. I'm 5'8", so I could have pushed myself more, done more things there, and then reached out to the NCAA, maybe get a D2, maybe get a D3 offer, do something in that respect. I got NIL money now. I have a place to go, and now I'm not going out until the working force until I'm 26, 27 years old. your thoughts on what this can do, as Pavia's lawsuit is saying, I've played 5 years of ball, but I want 2 more and at least 1.
Well, I think it'll change recruiting. If let's say this passes and they can go to JUCO for 2 years and still have 5 years to play 4, which I think that's going to change also. I think you're going to see the redshirt stuff go away, which I think is good. I think just give everybody 5 years to play 5, and that way you don't have some of these guys deciding they want a redshirt mid-season or whatever, and coaches don't have to worry about how many games a kid's played in and this, that, and the other, especially with the reduced roster size coming in July. Just allow them all to play 5 years to play 5. But if you have this now where they get an additional 2 years that don't count against their clock, I could see schools going much more heavy recruiting junior college players ahead of high school student athletes. And I could also see a lot more high school student athletes choosing to go the junior college route, whether they have the grades or not, just because you can go and you can develop for 2 years.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to have a lot of ramifications across the board just on how colleges recruit. I think you'll still see your very top high school kids. They'll still sign with a Power 4 school. But I think it's all the rest of the players, all the 3 stars and 2 stars and the whatever. Those guys are going to have fewer scholarships now than they even have currently this year. And that's is that good? Is that bad? I just think it's going to create less and less opportunities for high school student athletes graduating.
Yeah, I mean, it almost promotes for you to go to junior college at this point, if it's granted. Now, the court filing also stated Pavia could earn over $1 million if allowed to play in 2025. So again, the money, saying, hey, you don't let this guy play NCAA Division I football, you might cost him $1 million. Now, that's not stated if he's got that money yet. If he has somewhere where that NIL money is going to come from, but it states that he could be losing money if you don't allow him in. Now, the injunction was granted from Judge William L. Campbell Jr., which allows Pavia to start preparation for 2025. Now, in starting his preparation, it does not mean that he has won his case. The case is still pending. The injunction was granted because waiting for the case to be decided upon would harm him. Harm him is the word that was used. Harm him even if he won the case because of the amount of time that this may take. Now, here's the thing that's interesting, Mike, and this is the thing that really makes me uneasy about this case. The injunction allows Pavia to start preparation for 2025, which includes looking for NIL, name, image, and likeness money, and it also allows him to transfer in the portal. So think about if Vanderbilt went through all of this stuff and then Pavia gets offered $3 million from some other school somewhere else. Let's say the Gators go, hey, we like DJ Lagway, but we're not sure about DJ Lagway, and you're 24 years old, and you've been in this game for a while, and dude's been up and down, so why don't you come to the Gators, stay in the SEC, we'll give you 3 if they're going to give you 1 at Vandy. What if, and I'm just saying a what if Diego Pavia goes through all of this stuff with Vanderbilt, and then he leaves and goes somewhere else?
It would fit right in with what's happening, across the board in the game right now. You just see so many situations like that, and I hate that stuff. And again, one party sits here and says, well, do you blame him? If he can get 3 versus 1, do you blame the kid? You can't blame the kid. But it certainly is another piece that undermines the thing that we all believe in, the continuity, the team, loyalty, all those things. So I just think I think with all this, I think we've gotta get control of college football, college athletics. We're talking college football here, from a standpoint of, it needs to become its own thing. It needs to become a structured deal where there's a salary cap, pay the players,
Yeah.
Have a collective bargaining agreement with the players and the NCAA or with college football. Have a commissioner, have a governing body that has power, and get it away from where everybody's running to sue somebody or bring up a lawsuit or whatever. I mean, you don't see this happening in the NFL. I mean, in the NFL, a player can't go to a judge and say, well, this or whatever. No, it's a job. It's an industry. There's rules and there's structure and there's accountability. And so I think we've got to get that piece back into college athletics, or get it in college athletics, to quiet down some of this stuff to where, if I'm Vanderbilt, I'm uneasy all over the place.
Yeah.
You don't know if you have Diego. You don't know if you don't have Diego. How are you preparing right now? Well, they've got to prepare. If you're them, you have to prepare to not have him next year, no matter what. But it just leaves so much up in the air, because that's a scholarship that you have to save for him in case you can have him. Well, that's a scholarship somebody else could be using also. And so we've got to get control of all this stuff and get all this, go and sue the NCAA mess out of the window, because it's just creating situations that none of us are for.
Here with Mike Houston, longtime collegiate head football coach, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, having the conversation about Diego Pavia's lawsuit and the situation that this could create for junior college and changing the NCAA even more so. This Future of Collegiate Athletics special that started with Gary Stokan, president and CEO of Peach Bowl, Inc., and continues with Mike Houston, longtime head football coach at the collegiate level. The conversation I had with Gary, Mike, before you came on, airing that conversation, he echoed some things you were saying. Talking about a salary cap, talking about a commissioner of college football, someone to oversee college football, and to have a board that works with him. Now, Gary talked about the Power Four being on that board. I want to get your thoughts on a few different things. And forgive me, because we start the week off on a Monday, and I'm going to ask a lot of you, Mr. Houston. But to look at the fact of a few different pieces. Should there be a commissioner of college football? And should that commissioner have a board to keep them honest? And if they have a board, does that board only include the Power Four, a.k.a. the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC? Or does that board have to have representation from the MAC, the Mountain West, the new whatever the Pac-12 becomes, as well as the Sun Belt, the American Athletic Conference, and Conference USA? So does there need to be a commissioner of college football? Does that person need a board? And is that board comprised of Power Four or everybody?
Well, I think, first off, no doubt there needs to be a commissioner. And yeah, I understand what he's saying about there being a board to help, with accountability. I do think the representation on that board should be from whatever schools or conferences the commissioner oversees. But I will say this: I think the days of, there being 130 some odd FBS schools, and they're all, playing at the same division or same level, I think that needs to be gone. The SEC and the Big Ten are playing with a different set of rules than the rest of the Power Four, whatever the Power Four means. And then the Power Four, they're playing with a different set of rules than what the rest of the Group of Five are playing with. And they're different. They're in different places. They have different financial components. They have different resources, and it's not equitable across the board.
Yeah.
So I've said it the last time I think we were on here. I see in the next, I don't know how many years, less than 5, though, I would say, I see the Big Ten and the SEC separating with whomever they want to bring with them. Okay. Whomever that is from the Big 12 and the ACC, I see them separating and becoming their own entity. And that will be the highest division of college athletics or college football, or however you want to phrase it. Does football just separate from everything else, or do you have basketball and baseball and all the other sports go with it?
Yeah.
But I think you have a commissioner and a board that runs that division, and I think the next step down, they've got to have they've got to have the same kind of structure that fits them. And the reason I say that for those schools is because the revenue, the TV revenue that those schools are getting payouts yearly is so proportionally ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
They have more money to spend. And there's a reason Ohio State had $20 million to invest in that roster this year. And it's the reason they have the best roster in college football. And everybody sat there and watched. Okay, so if you're at pick the other school that has resources, you think they are not going to spend at least that much to try to win a national championship? And what they're doing at those schools is so much different than what you're doing at a Memphis or at a SMU. I mean, SMU, they did really well in the ACC this year. They made the college football playoff, but they don't have the financial resources that an Ohio State does.
Yeah.
And so I just think you're going to continue to see separation. And I'm all for this. I'm all for guidelines, rules, accountability, and an even playing field. And it'll never be completely even, but just so you have a chance, if I'm playing in the Big Ten, just so I have a chance to be highly competitive in my conference. And I know there's other factors that go in, a place like Vanderbilt, a place like Northwestern or something like that. But, as long as I've got a chance to be on as even a playing field as possible with my competition, that's because right now you have, it's free agency, and you have kids that transferred during this last window. You had kids that transferred from institution A to institution B. They'll go through spring practice, and you'll see a lot of kids leave that institution that they just transferred to and transfer somewhere else in May. And I don't think that's not good for anybody. That's not good for the programs. That's not good for the student athletes. I think you're going to really see some issues with academic eligibility and graduation in the coming years. And, who knows if these stories are going to be written or not, but you're going to have a kid, every time they transfer, they lose credits, because not all your credits will transfer from institution A to institution B.
Right.
And so you're going to have some guys that are going to run out of eligibility, but they're not going to be anywhere close to graduating. And you're going to see more than you have in the past because of all the transferring around. And so I think, again, unintended consequences. I just think you've got to get control of all this stuff and figure out what is best for everyone, what's best for the student athletes, what's best for the institutions, what's best for the sport, and give some guidelines and give some governance. But in my opinion, you're not going to be able to have that unless you go completely to a NFL style model where there's collective bargaining, salary cap, contracts, those kinds of things.
Yeah, and it plays off of some things you said there. Gary Stokan also said, he envisioned 64 teams instead of 130 plus in FBS. Those 64 split into 8 different divisions of 8. Those divisions will give us regions, and those regions will be overseen by this commissioner. So a lot of things off of what you just said, Mike, you know, because we've talked about it before, my prediction back around the beginning of COVID was that the SEC is going to break away and form its own thing. Prior to that, I had 2 conversations with then ACC Commissioner John Swofford about what autonomy means. Why did those 5 conferences, the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and the SEC, choose the word autonomy, which means self-governing? Why would they have to go to the NCAA and say, hey, we need to redefine who we are, and these are the words we chose? Power is something that was chosen by the media. Autonomy, self-governance, was chosen by the conferences legislatively to essentially state, in my opinion, we exist as our own body underneath your umbrella, but if we choose to get out from underneath your umbrella, we've defined ourselves as such. And it really didn't make any sense to me. If you're going to be self-governing, why are you even in the NCAA? And when I sat with John Swofford and I had multiple conversations, and I specifically remember one that we had at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, during the ACC tournament, I said, John, you're autonomous. That means you're self-governing. Is there the thought that one day you will leave the NCAA? He said, well, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I'm paraphrasing here. Not out of the realm of possibility. It's something that's, not that it hasn't been discussed, but not right now. And that sat with me. And the reason why they used autonomy, being the son of a lawyer, the words you use in legal documents makes a lot of sense to me in where you're going. So I'm looking at this legally. I'm looking at the word autonomy. I'm having a conversation with John Swofford. I'm having another one with John Swofford. Then COVID hits. I watch the SEC. I see Oklahoma and Texas leave the Big 12, and I say to myself, something inside of me says the SEC is going to leave. Within that time period, the Big 10 goes and gets West Coast teams, which makes no logical sense, no geographical sense. It makes monetary sense to look at the SEC and say, we got the North, we got the Northeast, we got the Midwest, you got the Southeast, you got the Southern Middle. Now we went and got the West Coast. The only thing that we don't have, and this is me saying I'm the Big Ten talking to the SEC in what my belief is, the SEC going, or the Big Ten going to the SEC and saying the only part of the country that we don't have covered between our 2 conferences, Idaho, Arizona, Wyoming, we got everybody else. So if you're going to go with us. Let us be a part of this, and let's go together. You just stated the SEC and the Big Ten will become their own thing. That was a statement I made 3 years ago, if not longer. So we're on the same page in that. If it becomes 64 teams, I've also made the statement, Mike, and you and I have talked about this, that Clemson and Florida State, now keep in mind, ESPN just extended their basic rights agreement with the ACC through 2035-36, which is supposed to protect that group of ACC schools, which they have 18 because they added Cal, SMU, and Stanford, albeit I believe Cal and Stanford are temporary, but they added these schools in. Now, that does not mean that Florida State has stopped their fight, and it doesn't mean that Clemson has stopped their fight. The signs point to the fact that Clemson and Florida State are not wavering in this thing. Okay, the ESPN did that. Well, that's all well and good. But from everything that I know up to this point, Florida State and Clemson are not like, okay, our fight's over. So if they leave, which I've stated them before, and I've stated Miami because I don't think Miami has loyalty because I saw what they did to the Big East when I was a kid, and I look at Notre Dame. If those 4 schools, as I've said to you before, become a part of this SEC Big Ten new top tier of collegiate athletics, for football at least, then they have all the major brands. You can claim that a national champion because who's going to argue with you? But here's my question. If it is 64, if they do regionalize, I have 2 questions for you. Does that mean that conferences dissolve in this new world of commissioner and 64? Do we lose conferences, number one? And number two, and here's a question that's really going to need to be asked, do conferences currently, if we form this divisional group of 64, do conferences like the SEC and Big Ten that form this new world have the right to realign by asking schools to leave that do not help their portfolio? Like a Rutgers, like a Maryland, like a maybe Arkansas right now, and Vanderbilt in every year but this past year. Does the SEC and the Big Ten have a right to force you out is the question. So in this formation, do we lose conferences? Because that's going to, there's a lot of money that's locked up in that. So how are they going to work that thing out?
Right.
So do we lose conferences? How do we keep those within this new model, if there is a model of this? And is a conference allowed to ask you to exit their conference?
Well, I think everything will get redone, and you're right. There's a lot of money tied up in the TV contracts with the current conferences. But in my opinion, the thing that needs to be done is there needs to be complete realignment. And just like you mentioned, 8 divisions of 8 in this new proposed, top tier, I think there needs to be more regional identity with the conferences. And the reason is this, football, yes, UCLA traveling to Michigan is not the easiest trip in the world. Penn State traveling, to USC, not the easiest trip in the world. But, in football, you only play one game a week.
Yeah.
So, off-season scheduling and stuff, you can organize it to minimize some of the impact on those teams. But think about basketball, volleyball, baseball, where you have multiple games a week and you have cross-country travel. What kind of impact does that have on a student athlete? That's what they're called, student athletes. They go to class, they're taking classes, they're working on getting a degree. So how are they supposed to do that when they're traveling cross country for ball games multiple nights a week? Problem number one. Problem number two, and again, like I said, the financials at these top schools, are so much different than everybody else. The cost of that travel is enormous. So sure, they can handle it, but back to a smaller, group of 5 school that's in the American Conference, where it's, the American Conference is a national conference. The travel for a volleyball team, cross country, multiple trips, multiple games a week, the financial impact. So I think that you're going to see in this new, whatever it comes around, I think you will see more regionalized conferences because of those 2 factors. And especially, when the group of 5 or whatever it's going to become, when they reorganize, I think you'll see an extremely strong push from college presidents and college ADs to get regional conferences. And I think that's good for the sport anyway. I think that's good for, I'm just telling you, you get a, South Carolina Clemson, okay, they're not in the same conference, but you look at the fans at those games because everybody can get to the games, okay, versus a Penn State USC. Okay, how many Penn State fans are going to travel cross country to go see a game in LA? Okay, you'll have some, but you get these regionalized conferences and you're going to see the stadiums packed out at max capacity every week because the fans will be able to get there. So I think for the financial piece, for the betterment of the student athletes, and I think it'll create better rivalries, I think you'll see these conferences become more regionalized. Now, your other question was, does a conference have a right to ask someone to leave their conference? I think the whole thing is going to get reorganized. I think they're going to pick and choose who is in what division based on what they bring, to that level of ball. So I think you will see some teams that are in the autonomous four, power four, whatever you want to call them. You're going to see some teams that are in that level right now that I think will be down with, the group of five level. And I think all of this will be good for the sport, and it'll be good for college athletics. But I think it all has to start with, there has to be strong leadership, and that leadership has to have power. Because right now the issue is the NCAA is the governing body. They are providing the leadership, but they're having the power taken away by the courts. And it really just creates a dysfunctional relationship.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, people ask for Congress, but you forget, when you ask for Congress and you ask for the national government, who's made plenty of mistakes, that this is going to put ourselves in a situation where it's getting even more dicey. And as the NCAA is seeing, the courts aren't agreeing with them. And the statement by Judge Campbell that, and keep in mind with this, the case is still pending with Diego Pavia. Judge Campbell said the NCAA's justification for restricting JUCO players' eligibility, quote unquote, falls flat. So he hasn't made his decision, but it sounds like he's not impressed by what the NCAA is doing. Here's the NCAA's response. They said, and I quote, "The NCAA is disappointed in today's ruling." And this was with the Diego Pavia injunction that happened in December 18th. "The NCAA is disappointed in today's ruling and wants all student athletes to maximize their name, image, and likeness potential without depriving future student athletes of opportunities. Altering the enforcement of rules overwhelmingly supported by NCAA member schools makes a shifting environment even more unsettled. The NCAA is making changes to deliver more benefits to student athletes, but a patchwork of state laws and court opinions make clear that partnering with Congress is essential to provide stability for the future of all collegiate athletics, or future of all college." Here's my thing. The NCAA, in my opinion, is giving name, image, and likeness because California state law provided it and it was forced upon the NCAA. My opinion of depriving student athletes opportunities has already happened. Because back in the day before the transfer portal, a coach could give a list of schools to a player and say, if you transfer within conference, you can't sit out a year, you got to sit out 2 years. Plus, I know the 5 schools that are talking to you, and you can't go to those 5 schools. So if you leave me, you can't go in the conference to the schools that know you and have competed against you. You can't go to the 5 other schools that I know are talking to you. So you're going to have to go to some, school that is not going to provide you the opportunities that these schools are going to provide you. It's happened to people. It happened to a friend of mine at Syracuse University. So the reality is here that student athletes' opportunities have already been altered, that the NCAA is a billion-dollar non-for-profit industry that makes no sense when you say non-for-profit, and they're being forced to make these decisions. These aren't decisions that the NCAA made wholeheartedly. I don't, and maybe there's some people that are within the NCAA that are doing this, but Mike, making decisions out of the goodness of your heart, I tell people this all the time. I covered women's sports back in 2003 when I was ridiculed, questioned. Why are you doing that? Who cares? Nobody watches women's sports. Nobody pays attention to it. Why would you waste your time? That's what I got at the beginning of my career. Why would you even waste your time? And now women's sports are being covered everywhere. Do you think it's out of the goodness of people's hearts, Mike? To some. But I also think it's because it's been thrust upon them. It's been forced upon them. Because now it's cool to cover women's sports. It's important to cover women's sports. We don't want to affect the apple cart that is the politically correct world. I didn't do it when it was PC. I didn't do it when it was popular. And I didn't do it when people were applauding and carrying me on their shoulders. So when I see big name markets cover women's athletics, I ask the question, are you doing it because you want to? Are you doing it because you feel like you have to? Because back when I did it,
there wasn't any, we're going to pay you all this money, we're going to do all this stuff, we're going to boost you by doing it. It was like, hey, if Dan goes and does it, let him go do that stupid thing, and we're going to keep doing this. So I ask the same question to the NCAA now. If you were doing this out of the goodness of your heart, if you were creating opportunities for student athletes, why were they so restricted from transferring in the past? Why were they punished for transferring in conference? Why could a coach cut them off at the knees and say, I don't want you to play for me, and I also am not going to allow you to play for anybody on my schedule or anybody that wants you? That coach could be bitter, could be hateful, and could kill that person's career and give them a lose-lose situation. I also look at a billion-dollar industry that says, well, we want these kids to make money. No, you don't. Because if you did, any of the decisions, Mike, that we're talking about today, any of these things, if the NCAA wanted women's basketball to have the same opportunities as men's basketball, they wouldn't have to take pictures and videos and post it on social media that their workout room was subpar. If they wanted student athletes to make money, California wouldn't have to force this upon the NCAA. If they wanted these kids to not be punished and held hostage by coaches, they would have provided opportunities and not allowed those restrictions. I don't think the NCAA is doing anything right now because it's out of the morality and the goodness and the values, and it's the God-given right of the freedom of the student athlete. I think the NCAA is making decisions now because the NCAA is finally seeing what happens when you spit into the wind.
Well, and they're making decisions right now to keep from keep from being sued. That's the deal. Is they're playing defense so much with these lawsuits, and they've gotten tired of it. They're running out of money and running out of lawyers. So yeah, you're right. I mean, they're doing these things because they have to. And I played back in the day when those restrictions were on us. And you're right. My ability to, I was very happy where I was. I didn't want to transfer, but my ability to do so was very restricted. So I do think that some of the change has been needed and has been good. And I do think that there needs to continue to be change, but the change needs to be what's best for everything. Because we are seeing a situation now where it's great. The athletes, there is no doubt, and I tell a lot of people this, my players that I've had in the last 10 years, there needed to be a way for us to support them better financially, because what the sport has gone to is, if you're a college football player, you report to campus in the summer after your senior year of high school, and you train all summer. You take classes and you train. You play the season. Yeah. In the spring, you train, take classes all spring, and you're talking hours and hours a day, and you do that all summer. I mean, you literally, I would give my players a calendar to give to their parents that laid out when they had breaks, because the reality became, if you wanted a family vacation, it had to be on one of the 3 breaks that you get during a calendar year. So these student athletes are working year-round training for their sport. And unlike their peers who are just regular students, they don't have the time in the day or in the week to get a part-time job to help pay bills, to get a job to help, in the summer do whatever they want to do. And the scholarships, well, they're on scholarship. They're getting cost of attendance. Yeah, they are. But is that scholarship and that cost of attendance stipend, is that enough to cover everything they need to live day to day? And the reality was, no, it was not. So their family, even if they're on scholarship, their family was still having to support them financially, which a lot of families can, but there's some families that can't. There are some kids that come from very, very poor settings, and there's not enough money to help them. And so there was a need for us to give much better financial assistance to the student athletes. So those things changing is a positive. But I don't think anyone would sit here and tell you that giving an 18, 19-year-old kid who's just trying to figure out how to become a man, giving him large amounts of cash all at once is going to be something that's going to be positive for that young man 10 years later. Because the reality is that money's not going to last very long.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 10 years later, have they still learned the lessons that you learn growing up, going to college, going through all the things that you go through with your development that allow you to be prepared to live a highly productive life? I think there's got to be some thought put into how do we make sure that long term the student athletes are not harmed just as much as they're being helped by the current landscape with NIL and transfers.
Yeah, I mean we're in a place, Mike, where it's everyone for themselves. There is no team, and there are schools that do have this. There are schools that do have this unity and this connection, and they do live within this world. Notre Dame made it to the championship, and very much talking about their Catholic values, very much talking about their faith values, very much talking about God, talking about the team. We do things differently here. Even Ohio State, Ryan Day saying to me when I asked him the question, he said, "Hey, this," or I'm sorry, saying earlier on in the post game press conference, and then I asked him a question as follow up. He said, "This place isn't for everybody. It was for the guys that are here, but it's not for everybody. It's for Cody and Will, but not for everybody to come to Ohio State." So when we look at where things are at right now, there is the reality that a team still exists and there are coaches that still care. But we're also living in a world where, Mike, this was coming. Okay, you were in the American Athletic Conference, and I'm not going to name the coaches, but there was 3 coaches in the American that I had talked to that had signed extensions in December or January for that following season and then some, and they were all gone. 3 American Athletic Conference coaches said, yes, I'm going to stay, and signed extensions, and then were gone to another institution. In December, signing day. January, right before February, signing day. Gone. So we're living in a world where we have seen coaches make inordinate amounts of money. We have seen coaches that leave and go. And I said this to Mike Oresco, the former commissioner of the American, and he said, "Dan, I like it, and I'm probably going to use it." And I said, "Well, Mike, give me credit." I said, "Why are we worried about student athletes in the transfer portal? Coaches and institutions have been in the portal for years." So living in this constant flux of a coach can do whatever they want, but a player can't. A school can pay millions of dollars to exit and completely destabilize a conference to boost another conference. Realignment is going to happen because destabilization cannot sustain itself. You can't have a nuclear reactor continuing to have the alarms go off without having some set of parameters to stop the leakage that's in that nuclear reactor.
Right.
So the NCAA essentially has a bunch of nuclear reactors going off right now, and they cannot get enough teams out to each of these reactors to stop them. So this is the world that we're living in. They're dealing with NIL, that's one nuclear reactor. They're dealing with the portal, that's another nuclear reactor. They're dealing with realignment, that's another nuclear reactor. They're dealing with the JUCO rules, that's a nuclear reactor. They're dealing with congressional stuff with the House and the NCAA and the settlement and all this stuff, that's another nuclear reactor. So they put themselves in this position. And Mike, you and I are God-fearing people. There are people that fear God, and there are people that do not regard God as existing. But I can promise you something. Whether you believe in God or you don't, whatever you put in to this world, no matter how long it takes, either comes back good if you put in good, or it comes back not so good if you put in not so good. The NCAA has been functioning under the "we are God, you work for us." And it's not working now because you cannot get enough of their people to these nuclear reactors to stop the leakage. And what is going to happen to this NCAA is what I predicted, sadly, almost 7 years ago, is I don't think we're going to have an NCAA because I don't think that they're going to be able to survive what has happened here. I said the NCAA needs a check and balance place. You know how there's 3 branches of government? Well, the NCAA is one overlord of government. It's like having a dictatorship. I don't know how they can live through this because the amount of money going to college football, the amount of expenses going to the Olympic sports this conference realignment of 23 and 2,400 miles, all of these things that have gone on, when things don't make sense, eventually somebody sits down and goes, this is not ethically responsible for us to do. This is not good for the student athlete. This is not good monetarily for us. This is not good for us in regional matchups and whatnot. It's not good, and it means nothing to anybody for Rutgers to play UCLA. So when if you want to play non-conference, but when you look at all of these things that are going on, someone eventually is going to sit down with this, Mike, and say it is not responsible to the mental health, the economic health of the institution, the mental health of the student athlete. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm sorry to the people that thought that this wasn't coming, but common sense has a way of always rearing its ugly head. And like I said, with so many nuclear power plants with alarms going off, they cannot get enough people to stop these leaks. And I don't know, Mike, if the NCAA is going to be able to sustain and exist beyond this point, but I don't think they can blame anybody but themselves, the NCAA, for what's happened.
Well, the whole thing is, for years, we tried to claim that it was amateur sports, and it's not. And it is a business. And if we don't run it like a business, then you're going to have these issues. And, when you got the TV contracts, however many years ago that it started, where you started having these large amounts of revenue coming into these institutions, and coaching salaries started going up, and you have all this money coming in, and you're not sharing it with everybody. That's where the issues started, and that's how you ended up where you are today. But the only solution is treat it like what it is. It's a business. The student athletes, you can say whatever you want. If they are working to bring in revenue to the institution, to me, that's an employee. Yeah. And so you got to figure out how that relationship's going to work. But the student athletes are employees of the institution. Structure it like a business, run it like a business, and with any business sports league, okay, you've got to have a commissioner. You've got to have set guidelines and set rules. And I think rules for the coaches too. You look at the NFL. If you are under contract in, Jacksonville, New York, Dallas, wherever, and there's an opening somewhere, those teams cannot just go and talk to a coach that's under contract. They have to get permission to contact somebody, and there's all kinds of rules to how they have to go about doing that. And if the team wants to restrict and not allow them to talk to a coach, then they can do that. Yeah. And that's allowed. And we saw that go down in Dallas with Mike McCarthy just this past hiring cycle, where I think the Bears wanted to talk to him while he was still under contract with the Cowboys, and the Cowboys said no. And so that denied that contact until after McCarthy was out of his contract in Dallas. And so I think that's fine. It's part of it. But we gotta get some structure, and we got to get some rules, and we got to get some enforcement, and we have to have strong leadership for the sport. And I think that's all going to come because of what you said. It's everybody's going to get tired of, why are we doing this way? There has to be a better way. There has to be a better way for the non-revenue sports to function. It's crazy to be flying on a Tuesday night across country to play a volleyball match. That's insane for everybody. So some common sense has to come back to how this thing is being run. But it's going to be interesting to watch the next several years.
Yeah, and like I said, they don't have enough to dispatch at this point. So, I mean, where we are, Mike, I mean, you are in this chapter of your life where you're watching, right? I mean, I spoke with other coaches that have been in this position of you're watching. How does this affect you? Does it affect you? Does it say to you, I want to now work in sports broadcasting? Does it say to you, I want to work in the new leadership of this iteration? Does it say to you, I want to work in the NIL space and I want to be someone who is a liaison for these student athletes? Does it say to you, I want to be a head coach still? Does it say to you, hey, the head coach got way too much to deal with. I would rather just be $1 million coordinator. What does all of this do for you, Mike? Because you are a good coach. You have done great things. I give you credit for East Carolina's success this season and for the fact that they got to more wins than losses and the fact that they got to a bowl game, because your leadership and your sustainability at a place that takes a lot to win at, which I know because I've been covering them for over a decade, and the people that you brought in, and I got to say this to you more than anything, Mike, you recruited student athletes to East Carolina that are good men. They're not just good football players, they are good men. And those good men, when I've done one interview with them and I reach out to them, immediate response. What's up, Dan? My guy, I got you. I'm going to the NFL. Let's do an interview. So you have stand-up people that you brought in there. You had run a stand-up place and operation. If I was overseeing an institution and you walked into my doors, you would have ample time to tell me why you should be my coach. So my question to you is, what's next? And does any of this affect what's next for you?
First off, we're blessed. My family and I are very blessed. Certainly this is a time of transition for me, and it's something new that I've been going through. But the positives are that my 16-year-old son, who's a sophomore in high school, I've got to see every basketball game he's had this winter. And I've been able to enjoy watching his progress. My 12-year-old son, who's a sixth grader, he's playing middle school basketball. I've been able to watch him. I've had tremendous quality time with my wife, Amanda, and both boys during the holiday season. So we are blessed. I'm not as stressed as a lot of people on a Monday morning, in the coaching profession today. But
True.
But I'll say this: what is next for me? I don't know. I've considered everything that you brought up, everything, and what I keep coming back to is 30 years ago. I'll tell you just real quick my story. I was pre-med in college. I took the MCAT. I interviewed at a couple of schools to go to med school. I was put on a waiting list and told to work for a year in the medical industry and reapply. I chose not to do that. I took a job teaching high school chemistry and physics and coaching football and basketball. And a few months in, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I never reapplied to med school, never looked back. And I have been blessed to do something that I love to do. I have enjoyed the relationships that I have with the student athletes, whether it was the high school level, the college level, wherever. Yeah. It is the fulfillment that I get is by pouring into young men and helping them develop from that 18-year-old kid that graduates from high school to that 22-year-old young man who has a degree, has had a great experience at the college level, and is now prepared to go out and have a great life. That's what I want to do. And I don't think I am done coaching. During this phase right now, I'm going to spend a lot of time with reflection, professional development, looking at the ways I've done things. I'm going to get a chance to visit a lot of people and see how they do things and, be better prepared the next opportunity that I get be better prepared than I was last time around. And I'm excited about that piece. And I know this. I know that and you mentioned faith earlier. I am a firm believer that God has put us in this situation for a reason, and that there's something else that He has for myself personally and for my family, that He had to take us through this time in our lives in order to get to that. And that faith is what my wife and I are leaning on right now, and we're enjoying this time that we have, and we're excited about the next chapter whenever that door is open for us. So we'll see. I don't think that I'm going to do the broadcasting thing, but you never know. I don't think I'm going to get into administration. I don't think that's where I'm really supposed to be, but you never know. So we're just working hard each day to prepare for what's next.
And don't think I forgot that you said that if and when you ended up somewhere that you need a general manager for football operations. And I did not forget that you said that I would be a phone call away. I'm like, I'm going to hold you to it. So, but
absolutely. You just better be careful what you're saying you're going to get into now. It's something else, but I'll tell you, coaching is a great profession. For all the things we've sat here and we've talked about for the past hour that are issues in our sport, coaching is the most incredible profession that there is. And I've been blessed to be a part of it. And I look forward to what that next chapter is.
Absolutely. And the thing that I appreciate more than anything is the friendship that comes from the fact
Absolutely.
of two people giving each other a chance. And that's 100% of this screen for you. So Mike Houston, longtime collegiate head coach, and someone who helps me unpack these very, very big issues going on with collegiate athletics right now. And, of course, this conversation today about JUCO, NCAA eligibility, Diego Pavia, as well as so much more. Mike, I cannot thank you enough. Please enjoy Carolina for me as I enjoy the cold for you this morning.
Absolutely. Just stay bundled up there.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday, it was a balmy 7. So it was, yeah. It's definitely been very, very cold. And but one of my nicknames from college is Iceman, so I guess I can't complain. But I definitely I will look to have some warmer weather. But you and I will keep in touch as we always do. Please say hello to your family. And one of the greatest things, and probably the greatest thing you've ever said to me on this show, is what you just said, which most coaches don't get to do. You haven't missed a game for your kids. So God bless to that.
Great.
And I love it. And I look forward to talking with you soon.
Hey, take care, Dan.
Take care, Mike.
Thanks for having me on. Have a good one.
Take care. That coming from Mike Houston one more time on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We've gone over our time, but we're used to doing that here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Big conversations. Well, thank goodness I'm my own boss. So I can go, hey, boss, it's 11:01. Can I keep going? He's like, yeah, you could do it. Why not, right? That's the beauty of being your own boss. So, well, I'm technically not my own boss. My boss is God. And below God, far below God, is me. And I'm very happy to have Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. I can't thank God enough. I got to thank wonderful people that have been with me on this journey of making this a possibility, of helping me to create my business, helping me to know things that I did not know. So, I mean, I got to thank Mark, and I got to thank Mark and Mark. I got to thank my dad and my mom and my grandparents. You know, I have to thank all the businesses that believe in me. Carvel DeWitt, first and foremost, with Jay Cartini. I have to thank the institutions that took a chance on me, the people that took a chance on me, Mike Houston and Gary Stokan included. And, you know, honestly, my entire life has been built with blessings from God, and I will work to earn those. And I cannot be more thankful, but I'll find a way to be more thankful this morning. And we can all have that wake-up call. That's why I called the show what I called the show is, you know, I need it too. I need to take a step back and go, hey, You know, what are you complaining about? Your life is amazing. Well, I got this and that's unfair and this is unfair. Yeah, well, life's unfair. But it's been more fair than unfair. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the life that I've gotten to live. I'd like to believe and hope to God that it's just begun, and I'm eternally grateful for the opportunities. So God is great. Life is good. And, you know, I think, you know, we focus so much on the people that don't want us to succeed or the people that mistreat us. And why? You know, if you have a mother that loves you or a father that loves you or a friend that loves you or a business partner that loves you and appreciates you or a significant other or kids, grandparents, friend, whoever. If you got somebody out there that's like, hey, you know, don't let this world get to you. And if you feel like you don't have any of those people, well, you got the most important one. And when you think, if we took it, and I say this all the time and I need to do it, if we every single day of our lives took a step back and said, what am I complaining about? Well, I'm being mistreated. I'm being treated unfairly. This isn't right. This isn't just. This isn't good. Well, Jesus Christ is God and he got crucified for being perfect. So if the only human being that was ever perfect was crucified, spit on, stoned, laughed at, ridiculed, chastised, called names, made fun of, crown of thorns on his head, whips on his back and on his legs and on his arms, nails through his hands, nails through his feet, a stab in his side, and left in the sun to bake and die. Then why are you complaining that somebody didn't give you an opportunity that you feel like you earned? Well, because it's unfair. Yeah, it is unfair, but everything is relative. If I thought every single day what's happening to me is unfair and it's unjust and it's wrong and I don't deserve it, and then I thought Jesus Christ, that ends every argument. Jesus Christ's life ends every argument. There's nothing to complain about. The devil wants you to complain because it takes time. The devil wants you to worry because it takes time. The devil wants you to fear because it takes time. All of these things take time away from you. The more you fear, the more you worry, the more you doubt, the more you let people give you headaches. The more you let people, they're people. That's it. Skin and bones. Same as you. On this planet, we act like there's people up here, and then I'm down here, and then there's other people down here. No. What do we base that on? Money and power. How many people in money and power have taken their own lives? Have gone to jail? How many people with money and power were not happy? Money and power don't buy you anything. Well, it buys me cars, Dan. Well, it buys me people. It buys me friends. No, it doesn't. The reality of it all is, if people love you when you're rich and they love you when you're poor, those are your people. If people love you when you got nothing and love you when you got everything, those are your people. If people love you when you have it all and then saw you lose it all and they still love you, in fact, they probably love you more, those are your people. The people that don't want you to succeed, ask yourself why. Why does your success affect them? I've always asked my parents that. Why do people want me to fail? Why do they slam doors in my face? Why do they not give me opportunities when they give them to everybody else? Why am I treated this way when I'm doing things the right way and people doing things the wrong way are getting treated well? Why is this happening? Why is it opposite day? My parents say to me, they're jealous. I say, why? I don't gloat. I don't sit out here and say, look at my life, look at all my stuff. I don't tell people how much money I have or what I have. I just go about my life. So, why? My parents said jealousy. I said, why jealousy? He said, because they can't do it like you. One of my friends, Rob Drummond, sat down with me. We had lunch together, and he said to me, I said, Rob, why do they treat me this way? And Rob looked at me and he said, because you connect with people. It ain't BS, essentially. He was like, you can connect with people the way that they can't. See,
If you live life the way that God asks you to live, you're never going to fail. Because if you live with a pure heart and good intentions, you're never going to fail. Dan, how do you know? Because I'm 39 years old. I've been on this planet for almost 4 decades. You think I haven't felt like I failed before? And then I went back and I looked at it and I said, well, what did you give? What did you do? How did you do it? Did you listen to God? I can promise you this for those that don't think that God exists. Every single time I don't listen to him, I lose. I lose. And every time I listen to him and I feel like I lost, he helps me win. When I go solo, I lose. When I go with him, my losses are my victories. You got an institution up on a hill that treats me like I ain't nothing but the dirt on their shoe. But I was at the national championship this year. I'm covering an international, worldwide event. And then I come back to my hometown and I ain't nobody to these people? Does that mean I'm nobody? Or does that just mean that that's how they treat people? If you're one of 1,000 institutions, and I'm at the end of the road, the pinnacle, the stage of a championship, and you ain't even close, then what does that say? God put me at the end of the line. I'm told in my hometown I can't eat from the same table that's 10 minutes from where I grew up. But I can get on a plane and go 1,000 miles away and eat at the table of the highest form of success at that level. What did God say? I will set a table in front of your enemies for you. I will feed you. God didn't say I will feed you. God said I will feed you in front of your enemies. I will feed you in front of those people that said you don't deserve to be at this table. I will give you food and drink. And not just I'll give it to you, I will give it to you so that they can see it. Stop focusing on the bad. Stop focusing on the negativity. I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to you. Stop focusing on those that say you can't get there. I've already proven in my life that where people say I don't belong 2 steps down the road, I'm 1,000,000 miles away and I belong there. So if God says you belong in the championship and they say you don't belong at the practice, what did God do with what they did? God said, oh, they going to block my man? You have to have faith of a mustard seed. Sometimes my faith feels like it's so big it can't fit in 10 houses. Sometimes my faith feels like it's so small, I'm mad that I have to bring that amount to God and say, God, I'm sorry. But my faith, look at my faith right now. I owe you an apology. We don't know where we're going to end up. We don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is on this road of life, if I died today, 39 plus years has given me some of the best of friends, the people that have always been there for me, people I can lean on that I haven't seen in years and over a decade, people that trust me, people that lean on me, people that believe in me, people that hope in me, people that give to my life. I have lost nothing. I have gained. And what did I say to you on my social media? If I gain God and lose the world, what have I lost? If I lose the world and gain God's kingdom, what have I lost? We are so concerned with money, power, prestige, things, what people think of us. Your reputation and who you are might be totally different. But I can promise you this. No one's reputation is safe from the truth. Nobody's slamming of the doors is safe from the truth. Nobody's illogical, irrational, disproportionate, double standard is safe from the truth. That's why when you live in the truth and you live with God and you do things the right way every time, you don't have to worry about the truth. The truth is like lightning. You may not always hear the thunder, but it's coming. And the beauty of reality is that God always provides. And I used to complain to God about the storm, but I would venture to say that God provides. You feel God's provisions more in a storm than you do when everything's great. So I don't have the answers. I don't. I have suggestions, I have thoughts, but I don't have the answers. All I do is wake up every morning, thank God for giving me life today, and I need to do that first. I'm sorry, God. Thank you, God, for giving me life. I wake up in the morning and say, thank God for my life. Thank God for my life. Thank God for my loved ones' lives, Lily, my mom, my dad, my nieces, my nephews, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, my godson, the companies that believe in me, the people within those companies, the wonderful people that I've met, and the awesome world that I have. Thank you for all my blessings, Lord. Thank you for waking me up today. And then I get out and I do what I love, and I love what I do. Yesterday, I woke up and I went to Lemoyne. I went to Lemoyne to do interviews. It's a Sunday. I could be resting, could be hanging out, but I was excited to go because I love what I do, and I do what I love. Then I left there and I went to a card show to go be with a friend and to support our community. I didn't have to buy anything, but I chose to because I wanted to support people and I wanted to do nice things. And I wanted to say thank you to the people that I feel have been good and kind to me. So then I leave there and I come home and I see my little baby girl and I let her out and I let her have some fun because I don't want her to be cooped up in a cage all day. Because I haven't been as good as with that in the past, and I want to be better. So even if it was a couple minutes, I wanted to spend a couple minutes with Lily. Because I love her. Because she's the best daughter ever. Canine or human. My baby. And then I went and met my mom. And I broke bread with my mom, and we ate together, prayed together, and we watched a movie that we love. And then we both got home safe. So, hey, if the world stands against me, I won't be the first one. But I can promise you that I don't stand for the world. I stand for God. I made this show for a reason. And I wouldn't be where I am today without that. Without God. I wouldn't expect God to support me if I did it for other reasons. And I'm grateful to be with Mike, to be with Gary, to be with all of these people that have trusted me and that have given of their time. You watch interviews on shows, they're 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 questions. They're quick. People are like, Dan, we live in a quick society. You got to be quick. Why aren't you making quick, short videos? Because I'm not here to be in this world of just stupid crap. And that's what it is. A lot of the stuff is stupid. You got to do 10-second videos because we can't focus, Dan. How about this? How about we teach the world how to focus again instead of saying, no, keep watching stupid stuff. The stuff I saw trending on X today, why is this stuff trending? Farting unicorn was trending on X today. Happy Monday. Right? He is risen. That should be trending. Some good news. That should be trending. Families walk along the Potomac to honor those that passed away. That should be trending. Right? Syracuse breaks their losing streak. Good news. That should be trending. So, good men on the show today. Good men and women on the show always. I love y'all dearly. And God's got our back. So, it's about time that we do what I told him recently, which is have his. We'll take a step aside in the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We'll be back after this. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really changed the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machines, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machines. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop of choice. GG Cards and Breaks is the place. Whether you're looking for singles, graded, packs, boxes, doesn't matter. GG Cards and Breaks, hockey, soccer, baseball, basketball, football, Disney Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon. It's all at GG Cards and Breaks. They have an awesome collection, and the collection is ever expanding and growing and blossoming, and they're always looking for new stuff. You never know what they're going to buy, sell, trade. You never know what's going to be in the display cases. You never know what boxes and packs are coming into the store. That's why you got to go in and be a big kid and discover. You know how cool that was when I was a little kid, 9 years old? I go into a sports card shop and I just discovered. I walk around. My mom would be like, all right, you got some time? Walk around, see what's here. And I walk around, I look at different things, and I ask questions. And then I became a man. And 30 years later, I was like, man, I don't have one of those stores. I don't have a place that I can go to that makes me feel like I did when I was a kid. And then my dad on Father's Day a couple of years ago brought me into GG Cards and Breaks, and I thought to myself, is this place real? Is this a mirage? This place feels cool. It feels different. It feels nice. It feels like people care. It feels like a mom and pop place. And then I met the owner, and we talked. We had an emotional conversation about why he does what he does, Josh Gideon, and why I do what I do. Then we started working together. Then I met his team. And then I thought to myself, I got that place now. GG Cards and Breaks is that home that I've been looking for decades. I can be a big kid. I can be myself. I can make memories with my mom like I made memories with my mom when I was a kid. My grandmother's memories can live on because we're doing what I used to do when I was a kid. GG Cards and Breaks gave me that. So go in there today and give back to a place that's local, a place that cares, a place that's here in our community of Central and Upstate New York. 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Sundays from 10 to 5. Don't miss it. Here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, I want to thank you for tuning in. The show always goes by so fast. I'm like, it's noon. It's noon. We always go to noon. I said to my mom, I go, I'm just going to say we're 9 to noon. I'm going to say Wake Up Call is 9 to noon. We're going to make a big announcement. We've done big announcements over the years. People have been great, supportive. I said, we're going to make a big announcement. We're going to be 9 to noon. My mother said to me, no. I said, why? She said, because if you tell people you're 9 to noon, you're going to be 9 to 1. And that's true. So I've continued to say we're 9 to 11, but we promised you 2 hours. We've given you almost 3 today. I apologize for being late. Ever. Won't happen again. We love giving you extra time, though. Love adding time on. So thanks for being here on YouTube and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. However you're connected with the show, we thank you so much for tuning in up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, once the shows go live, they hop into the archives, and you can go and find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, and more. All you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, and you will find us here where sports meets life. So make sure you're connecting with us. All you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And we appreciate y'all for being here with us on all of these wonderful outlets. Over 1,600 episodes
that you can listen to just on Podbean alone. So get yourself over there and start enjoying today and follow the journey of Wake Up Call as we've grown through time by the blessing of God. Big time thanks to the Brooklyn Pickle. We love the BP. And where's the BP at? Oh, well, I'm happy that you asked. It's right there on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, less than 10 minutes from the Pinehurst golf courses that you hear about all the time with the PGA. That's right. If you want to make a trip of it and you want to go and enjoy some PGA golf, you can go out there, enjoy PGA golf while you're having fantastic food. And that comes to you right at 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina at the Brooklyn Pickle. So thanks to the Brooklyn Pickle down in North Carolina. Go and visit them today. Let them know that Wake Up Call sent you. Big time thanks to our partners here in upstate New York and in central New York. Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Mother's Cupboard, Avicoli's, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Brian's Landing, Servomation, reimagining, reinvigorating, and just bringing about a whole new world of what it means to vend in central and upstate New York. I never, honestly, and I'm not sitting here telling you stuff that's lies, people, because I couldn't do it and knowingly say it out loud and then be like, yeah, that's fine. I just lied to a bunch of people. That's totally fine. I can't do that. So when it comes to Servomation, when I tell you that they reinvigorated and just reimagined to me what it means to have vending in your area, they did. I'm not used to this at all. Vending was nothing. It wasn't even like a shadow of what Servomation is all about. It was not great. The decisions weren't great. The opportunities weren't great when it came to vending. And then I started talking to Servomation and Brian Bruno, and then I went and I toured one of their facilities, and I was like, this is what your vending is? This is the technology that you have? This is the kitchen that you have? These are the opportunities that you have when I go to the vending machine? These are the different things that I can get from your vending machine? I never thought that anything like this could ever be possible from vending. I thought you'd have to go to a market, go to a restaurant. I never thought that this could just be waiting for you at your place of business, but Servomation made it possible. And so you should get out to Servomation today and see what they're all about. Go to servomation.com to learn more. That's ServoMation.com. And of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find the Dolphins during Dolphin Time, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. You will see them weekly, student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni hanging out here on Wake Up Call. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Lemoyne playlist. You'll also find the Dolphins on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com and Fins Up. Shout out to the women's basketball team who got that dub at home at Ted Grant Court. I was there for it. Go and watch those interviews. Our Dolphin Dive specials with Nick DePillo, Sierra Lennon, and Hayden Roberts enjoying a 10-point victory that's gotten the team one step away from being 500 in the NEC as we get later on into the season, with just a little bit of time to go, a few more weeks before we head into the NEC postseason tournament. Fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Go and find your Bobcats every single month on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will find our BSC Syracuse playlist. The Bobcats are currently playing inside of their men's and women's basketball seasons. The men's team is 11-2 on the season, off to their best start in program history. And the women's basketball team has had some adversity, but they're working their way back up here as their head coach nurses back from injury. And we have an awesome staff that has taken up the opportunity to keep this team moving forward. Couple possessions have separated them on their last couple games here, and they will fight forward. They got a game
that is coming up here on Wednesday, February 5th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time at the SRC Arena in Syracuse against Bryan and Stratton, Albany. So they'll be at Allen Hall, actually, over at OCC. So make sure you go and support your Bobcats. Got a bunch of home games coming up for the women's side of things, and on the men's side of things for the Bobcats, to let you know their upcoming schedule. The men's team at 11-2 has games coming up here. They just defeated SUNY ESF, and they went on to, that was a home game that they had, then they went on the road. They'll be back at home on February 9th in the doubleheader against Bryan and Stratton Albany. So a lot of great stuff coming up where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So make sure that you check out all the great Bobcat coverage, student athletes, coaches, and administration, and of course our most recent conversation with the men's basketball team. Do not miss that. It is heartwarming, it is awesome, and it's how I would love to hear people talk about each other all the time. Go and see all of that on our YouTube channel. You can also find the Bobcats by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time during Bearcat Time. The Bearcats come to you in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with student athletes, coaches, and administration all throughout the year and all throughout their sports. You can find all of our Binghamton content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist. The Bobcats are also on the Bearcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information on your Bearcats, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. I want to thank you all for tuning into this edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. I want to thank my incredible guests inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', Gary Stokan, the president and CEO of Peach Bowl, Inc., that oversees the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, the Aflac Kickoff Game, which has a doubleheader this upcoming season, and obviously does a ton of work at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, bringing the College Football Hall of Fame down there and being a very charitable place that is giving back to so many wonderful outlets in the hopes of finding cures and in helping people to be well, to be healthy, and to have fantastic journeys, including all the work that they do with childhood cancer. So many thanks to Gary Stokan and his entire team at Peach Bowl, Inc., and many thanks to longtime collegiate football head coach, my guy, Mike Houston. Much appreciation. We spoke about the future of collegiate athletics with Gary and Mike today. These are conversations that I feel like should be put in a time capsule. You should be sending these to your friends, copy and send, and get them out to everybody. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all for your love and support. Find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, X at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, and as we always say here, inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, God bless, no stress, do your best.